There are times when the sky seems silent, no sign, no answer, no confirmation. You pray, cry out, but the return is silence. There is no dream, no word, no feeling. The world keeps spinning, but inside, everything seems to have stopped. It is like walking through a desert where even the echo of faith itself comes back. This is the place where only the chosen ones can stand, the dark of God. You cry, and the sky doesn't respond. You fold your knees, and peace doesn't come. You look for comfort, and everything you find is more silence. The heart begins to ask, did he forget me? But the spirit, even silent, is still there. This silence is not absence. It is a presence that does not want to be touched by logic, but only felt in faith. His silence screams louder than any human word, and this scream echoes within the soul, moves the spirit, exposes weaknesses that you didn't even know you still had. Doubt tries to infiltrate. Was it all in vain? Did I go wrong? And the sky remains silent, not to punish you, but to purify you. Because God's silence is never punishment, it is cut. In the dark, the soul screams, and on the scream she begins to empty herself from everything that is not firm. You realize that the faith you had was sustained by quick answers, sensations, signs, and now all this is gone. Only the essence remains. Only the spirit remains in a gross state. Only the truth remains. Either you believe even without listening, or never really believed. This is the desert, the place where the chosen one walks without script, where God is silent not for cruelty but for zeal. He is writing something, and like every author, he doesn't talk while in the middle of the page. He just writes. And what he is writing is the deepest, most invisible, most powerful chapter in his history. You are not alone, you are being shaped. Silence is no end, it is construction. And whoever stands this silence will hear the roar of glory when the sky decides to break the dark. Chosen, while you cry silent and think nothing is moving, the sky is in full operation. God's silence is not a sign of inactivity. It is a sign of hidden movement. It is in the invisible that he builds the scenarios that natural eyes cannot witness. While you wait, it builds. As you bleed inside, it adjusts the stage of the demonstration. God is testing his root, not his appearance, because appearance resists for a while, but root holds even in gale. And that's why he is not responding to you with applause or promises. He is strengthening you inside, making you create spiritual depth. The roots of their purpose are growing in silence in the dark where no one sees. Silence is divine ink. It is with him that God writes chapters that will only be read after the turn. He's not silent, he's writing. And when God writes, even his suffering becomes paragraph. Even your question becomes comma. Even your tiredness is part of the grammar of glory to come. You are a living page of an eternal story. The world around you sees nothing. And so they judge you. They say nothing has changed. They say he stopped. They say she disappeared. But the sky is operating in a dimension that human eyes do not reach. And the Spirit says to you, be firm. You are being built where no one sees. When God is silent, it is because he is working. The greatest miracles are formed in silence. The greatest decrees are written in secret. The largest turns are planned outside the spotlight. God doesn't need an audience to transform you. He needs silence to cut every detail. And do you know why he hid you? Because what he is preparing in you cannot be interrupted by distractions. What is being born inside cannot be touched by impatient voices, by carnal eyes, under shallow advice. He hid you to preserve, to shield, to activate something that will only be revealed when it is unshakable. You are not stopped, You are being built, and when the work is revealed, even silence will applaud what God generated in the dark of your soul. Heaven has a language that does not use words, and the chosen ones sooner or later learn to listen to this language, the silence of God. It is not the silence of abandonment, it is the silence of the secret. That's when the Father decides to teach by presence, not for speech. It is when the Spirit communicates for codes, not by phrases, and only those who have been separated understand. When God shuts up, the Spirit speaks in codes, and these codes do not come in audible voice, but in goosebumps without reason, in sensations that squeeze the chest, in precipitation without explanation. The body begins to react, the environment changes, dreams become more symbolic, but the sky is still silent. And it is in this silence that you begin to listen with the Spirit, not with your ears. You realize that something is happening, but you don't know what. Feels movements in the invisible, captures changes around, but the answers do not arrive. And yet, you have tried to explain, but people don't understand. You feel this weight on your chest, this spiritual sensitivity, this desire to move away, but they say it's just tiredness, anxiety, exaggeration. But you know, at the bottom of your soul you feel it is something bigger, that is spiritual. If that word found you at this point, comment here. It's with me. And if you need prayer, open your heart. We read, we pray. And if you want to walk with those who feel the same things you hide, subscribe here on the channel. This is the territory of those that heaven separated in silence. You know, the body feels, the soul responds, faith is maintained, because the true chosen learns to walk with what they feel, not just what they understand. Dreams change, sleep stirring, the words disappear. The environment looks more dense, but God remains quiet. And this is when it is operating with greater intensity. Because when He does not speak, it is because He is forging you not to depend more on external confirmations. You are teaching you to trust what He has already put inside. The absence of voice reveals where you were still a security dependent. Show what in you shouted by control. Displays what needs to die so that the new live. Silence digs the soul, reveals roots, confronts the mind, and while it hurts, purifies. This silence is a tool, a spiritual furnace, a process that no chosen escapes. Because there is no authority without silence, there is no depth without cut, and there is no true prophecy without a desert. God is teaching you the language of the high, and only those who can handle silence are ready to hear glory. There is a point in the silence where the soul begins to scream, not because it no longer believes, but because you are tired of not understanding. It is in this place that the chosen one finds himself before the greatest enemy, the temptation to give up, not the call itself, but of the hope of being heard, to be seen, to be answered, because praying and not listening to anything is bearable for a while, until the question knocks on the door. Thoughts begin to whisper, is it worth it? Is all this in vain? Did I invented this call? And this feeling of spiritual failure envelops you as a fog. You feel that you are watering dry soil, building without foundation, speaking with a sky that does not speak back. And then comes the departure, not of God, but of people, of everything that once seemed to vibrate with you. The ties begin to come loose, people look at you strange, and loneliness intensifies. You think it's your fault, but it is not. It is divine separation. The Father is cutting noise. It is taking everything that could disturb what it is forming in the dark. Her faith did not die, but she bleeds. It is injured, and God sees. See when you lie down and can't pray. See when the praise is forced. See when you pretend to be strong for others, but inside is the shards. And yet, He remains silent. Not because it is distant, but because now He wants you to trust, not to understand. Because if you understood everything, you wouldn't need faith. But as you don't understand, you need to believe it. Believe when nothing makes sense. Believe when the floor disappears. Believe when the feeling says it's over, but the spirit whispers, remains. This is the test that separates the chosen from the convinced. Those who remain even without applause. Those who continue even without guarantees. Those who support the altar even without feeling anything. And it is at this point in the background of silence that God begins to write the new. When you think of giving up, He's about to intervene. Crying can last nights, but it's a sign that you're still alive. And who still cries is still being conducted. Chosen, God's silence is never forever. He has time, has purpose, has weight. And there is a point where heaven, even without speaking, begins to give signs that it is about to break the silence. These are subtle touches, small spiritual tremors that say, the time is coming. It can handle just a little more. Sometimes it all starts with a dream, but it's not any dream. It's one that seems more real than life itself. You wake up with a rapid heart, with a feeling that something was planted inside you while sleeping. You may not remember the details, but you know it was the sky visiting the silence. Suddenly, an unexpected peace invades his chest amid chaos. Nothing changed away, but inside something was based. You realize that even without understanding everything, it's no longer so distressed. This peace does not come from the world, comes from God saying without words, I am here. Phrases repeat themselves, names appear frequently, numbers surround you. Small details that would once go unnoticed now burn in the heart. It is the Spirit using the natural to signal the supernatural. It is the sky breaking the silence in codes. And then the cry, a different crying. No more pain but emptying, a weeping that washes you inside, which takes off its last weight, as if the soul fell off in the face of glory about to come. The cry before the turn is delivery. It is the sign that something is about to be born. And finally, that moment, you are tired, confused, exhausted, but something inside you decides to continue, without explanation, without strength, only faith. An invisible force lifts you inside and says, go, only go. This is the reborn. It is the breath before the manifestation. It is the silent voice of God restoring His march. When these signs appear, there's something that moves inside you when you hear certain words. It's not emotional. It is not psychological. It is spiritual. It's like you've heard it before, even if you don't understand how. The Spirit recognizes what the mind is still trying to rationalize. If this touched you, comments down here. I recognize. And if you want, ask prayer. Someone will pray for you. And if you haven't signed up yet, this may be the time to accept that the call has already begun and that you are not here by chance. No, the silence is breaking. The darkness is saying goodbye. And the strongest chapter is about to be read. It is difficult to understand why, among many, it was you who felt the weight of silence. Soon you who prayed more, who surrendered with sincerity, who sought answers with a torn heart and raised hands. Why does God shut up with who else loves Him? Why does it seem to be fair to those who would give everything for a whisper? Because it is with the strongest that He does the deeper processes. And it is with the most sensitive that He plants the rarest gifts. When God is silent to you, it is because it trusts your resistance. He's not punishing you, He's saying, you can stand. You'll go through it and get more mature, sharper, fuller than my glory. Silence strengthens your spiritual authority. Who has never endured the silence has no depth. There is no root, there is no discernment. But who endured days, weeks, months without hearing the voice of God and yet continued, this carries something that the world cannot measure. Authority without stage, intimacy without audience. In this silence, He cuts what you still didn't see. Emotional dependencies, disordered wills, relationships that were sustained by affection, but not by purpose. When he shuts up, he reveals. And when it reveals, it cuts. Not to hurt you, but to prepare you. The silence also shields you. He keeps you from words that would distract you, from voices that would divert your focus, from advice that would corrupt your way. There are times when God doesn't speak, so you can listen only to what you already know, so that your faith no longer depends on signs, but the certainty that has already been planted in your spirit. Every true prophet goes through the cave. All chosen crosses the valley where God is silent. It is in this dark that the soul aligns itself. It is in this void that the spirit is purified. And when everything seems too silent, too cold, too long, know, it's because the next season will be too high to be accessed by those who still depend on sounds. God's silent. But it didn't leave you. He trusted you, the silence, as a weapon. And in His time, it will reveal you as a voice. Chosen, the silence of heaven does not mean its inactivity. He does not call you to total rest, calls you to constancy. It is in God's silence that His faithfulness is measured, because continuing to seek even without hearing anything, it's really love. It is trusting beyond understanding. It is to offer presence when no sign is received. So keep the altar, even without feeling anything, even without shiver, without confirmation, without climate. Light the candle of faith every day. Fold your knees, even if in silence. God does not want performance, wants permanence. And every unanswered prayer is, in His eyes, a living sacrifice. Praise in a low voice. No need to sing loudly, just release sound. Because even the whisper of a broken heart comes to the throne. The Spirit does not measure decibels, measures delivery. Sometimes the most powerful song is one that comes out between tears and breaths. When you can't talk, write. Turn your prayer into a letter. Take paper or mobile and say, "Dad, I'm here." When words do not come out of the mouth, they come down from mind to fingers. And God reads every line as if it were cry. He responds to what you only had the strength to write. Avoid voices that drown out your sensitivity. Not every advice comes from the Spirit. Not every spiritual friend understands the mysteries of silence. During this season, be careful. Keep what is holy within the temple. What God is doing in you is too precious to be exposed to carnal looks. And above all, cultivate silence within you, even if His silence has not yet broken. Because the more you learn to silence inside, the clearer the moment He speaks again. There are revelations that only come in the echo of stillness. As the sky is silent, you graduate. While nothing changes outside, everything changes inside. And when He decides to break the silence, you will find in you an lit altar, a living faith, and an unshakable spirit. The sky does not remain silent forever. And when God decides to break what seemed absence, what comes is not just an answer, it's a life redirection. It's not just a word, it's a call. The end of silence does not return what you lost. It reveals what you have become. When God speaks again, He speaks with double authority. The voice that was once a whisper now is fire. The direction that was once invisible now becomes a road. There is no more confusion. There is no fear. There is no doubt. There is clarity. There is destination. There is glory. The time that seemed lost is restored with honor. The doors that have closed without explanation begin to open easily. And they are not any doors. They are irreversible doors. Ways no one else can close. Alliances that will not be broken. Purposes that will no longer be silenced. There are pains that you lived that no one has seen. You cried without audience. You fell to your knees in silence. And even without understanding, continued. This type of pain is not in vain. She forges the chosen ones. If this message spoke to your story, comments, this pain has purpose. Leave your prayer request in the comments, and if you can, pray for someone who is asking too. Here, there is no applause, but there is a presence. Subscribe, because here the pain becomes called, and the silence becomes a testimony. You are no longer the same, and those who knew you before silence, they won't understand what you carry now, because during that time when no one saw you, God filled you, healed you, lapidated you. He set you inside. And when heaven decided to speak again, it was to announce that the time of the demonstration arrived. His words now sound like a decree. It's no longer just a consolation, it's call. It is no longer promise, it is fulfillment. He speaks as King, as Lord, as a Father who was present all the time, in silence but never absent. And when silence ends, the sound that comes is not explanation, it's glory, it is presence, it is power. You are being raised in the exact time He chose, not to prove something to others, but to live what has always been yours. Silence was not oblivion, it was construction. And now that He has spoken again, heaven manifests itself, the earth bends, and you get up, as who survived the silence and returned as an answer. Chosen, you did not cross this silence just for you. Everything that endured silent, the nights in course, the unanswered prayers, the days without strength, were writing not only their story but the route of others. God was forming in you a spiritual map that will be directed tomorrow for those who have not even started the journey. You will be a consolation for those who are today in the desert where you almost died. When someone tells you, "I don't hear God anymore," you will not only advise, will witness. Go look in the eye and say, "I went through it too, and I'm here, standing." Your voice will be shelter. Your presence will be an answer. Because those who resist silence carries authority that is not explained, transmitted. Your silent story will be a healing for crowds. The details you found irrelevant, that tear, that writing and torn outburst, that day you thought of disappearing, all of this will be glory memory for those who will once think about giving up. You won't just preach, will embody hope. Your resistance will be used as a spiritual route to others. You will be a sign, a lighthouse, an echo from heaven among men. Because God does not waste pain. Every second of silence you have endured without corrupting yourself will become divine language for the lost, the tired, the broken. And then you will understand. Silence was the most divine school. It was there that your faith no longer depended on confirmations. It was there that His spiritual voice was born. It was there that the call was no longer a speech and became a presence. The pain you lived will echo as a prophetic authority, because no one can guide the desert without surviving it. And you, chosen, not only survived, you have been transformed into a voice to a generation that still doesn't understand the value of silence, but you will learn from you. You thought it was forgotten, that God passed straight, that the promise is left behind, but the truth is that He did not ignore you. He reserved you. As you cried, He wrote. As you silenced, He built. You have not been abandoned. You have been positioned. You are the deepest chapter in the book of God, not the most beautiful in the eyes of the world, but the denser, the most spiritual, the most sacred, because it only writes that who knows pain inside and still decides to continue. What seemed abandonment was rewritten of destination. God had to erase expectation pages to start writing with the pen of eternity. He took noise, voices, empty compliments, all for the narrative to be cleaned, pure, undeniably of Him. The pain was ink, the soul, paper. The tears were the oil that wet the page and made its story something no one else could copy. Because what God wrote in you is not taught, not buying, does not imitate. You only live. And now you live what He wrote in silence. Now that the silence is over, get ready for the revelation. Not just a call, but of an identity. A new season that carries the weight of what you have endured and the lightness of what is coming. You will be seen as it has never been, but not to be exalted, to be an instrument. You have not been ignored, you were hidden. It was not forgotten, it was protected. And now it will be revealed. because God only silences to those he chose to write in depth, and what he wrote in you, it will echo in an answer to those who still think silence is absence, when in fact silence is a construction of glory.